Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. Talking about the week of March 3rd, 2025, we have to note that Venus is retrograde. It's right now in what we call the first decan of Aries, so it's moving back through low degree Aries and will eventually be back into Pisces before it goes direct again. Now, Venus went retrograde over the weekend, and this has been a very volatile period of time, certainly in world news, because of value shift. Now, Venus is the planet that signifies love. It signifies what we value, where we invest, our relationship with money, what we feel we deserve, and how we ideally create harmony or not. And with the retrograde action right before the volatile events that happened between the United States and Ukraine, and therefore Europe, etc., we are in a very strong reevaluation period of how certainly the United States postures itself with allies. And obviously the shift has been extreme. Again, Venus in the sign of Aries. Aries is the sign that links to actually the planet Mars. So this is a aggressive stance of Aries. It's decisive and making a statement that is self-involved. Now, that is just one impression of what's going on with Venus retrograde, and it will continue through the next couple of months. It goes direct on April 12th. So part of what we might all be thinking about this week as Venus is moving backwards is, what do we value, care about, and want to invest our love and money in? And this can be highlighted for each of us personally when you know where Aries falls in your horoscope. Obviously, people with strong Aries placement may very much be feeling this in a personal way. Also, Librans and Taurus, these are the signs that are linked to the planet Venus. So it's not only your sun sign, it's moon sign, rising sign, and possibly the other personal planets as well, Mercury, Venus, Mars. So when you know where this moves through your personal horoscope, you can evaluate, see, okay, what am I reassessing in this area? And good general things to do when Venus is retrograde. Some of us may be reflecting on what we earn. How long has it been since you've asked for a raise, or if you're self-employed, change your rates? Of course, in present economy, that may feel a little, again, volatile, difficult to confront or deal with. But what's important is to look at it, evaluate, and see, do I feel I'm getting my worth in what the output I'm putting in? And another thing very important to consider, am I investing what I truly want to or care about in things that I value most. And I think that this is in general, really valuable thing for many of us to reflect on at this point in time when, as I've talked about many, many times, with this shift that we're experiencing, it's incredibly important to really choose what it is you're doing, believe in, invest in, and how committed you are to an outcome that is in alignment to what you truly believe and care about. So those are general themes for the weeks coming forward, but we may be feeling a real push towards it now that we're on the onset of this retrograde. So on Monday, the moon is in the sign of Taurus, and as I mentioned, Taurus is one of the signs that's linked to Venus. So this can really emphasize how much am I feeling I am in alignment with what I truly value. And this is a very strong sensation for many of us over the next couple of days. We may need to have conversations about that and really perhaps even, and this is another Venus retrograde theme, what can happen is certain friendships or relationships aren't really feeling like they're the right fit right now. So we are truly weighing, is this an appropriate way for me to be spending my time? Is this working for me? On the other hand, another thing that can happen when Venus is retrograde is someone from the past may come into our lives. And this may be temporary, or it may be very impactful, that revisit, whatever it may be. It can also come through in dreams, memories, finding memento, letters, things as we're sifting through memorabilia. Venus retrograde is a good time to see what am I still holding on to and what maybe I need to move past and give away or find another use for. So overall, Monday can be a very productive day. Again, we're in the waxing moon cycle, so a lot can happen over the course of this day. The most important piece, of course, is to make sure you feel like you're in sync with what you might want to truly be doing. And for some of us, this can come to a head in the morning hours. It can also be, well, let's say you're working at a job or you have a responsibility, commitment to fulfill that isn't really what you necessarily want to be doing. Once again, if this is something that you must fulfill, it's part of your job or it's what needs to happen for various reasons, yes, follow through, make it happen, but the valuable thing is to acknowledge that this isn't really fitting right now. I'm not feeling the love of this, or that this is what I really want to be doing. And yes, I mean, we can't necessarily change jobs or family structures or situations immediately when we're in them, but it's valuable to note what doesn't feel right to you, so that as you become more conscious of how you might adjust that or shift it, you can truly do it. I had a conversation recently about someone who was very upset about something that she was feeling a great responsibility for. And yet we discussed how she was making a choice to do this, even though it brought up feelings of lack of freedom and really dissatisfaction with what was happening. And yet she was choosing to do this out of, there's all kinds of reasons. Just to cite examples, people do it for income, they do it for a sense of responsibility, they do it because they know something's finite. I mean, there's many times when we have to do things that we're not really enjoying or wanting to do because we know that it's something we must do in order to have a sense of, this is how I'm showing up because I know this time is finite. And that happens a lot when we're doing caregiving, especially for someone who's facing death. And it doesn't mean we're always enjoying the experience, but we do it out of love, commitment, and knowing that even though it's uncomfortable, it's finite, and we show up. And it's important to honor why we make those choices when we make it, because then it moves a sense of, possibly resentment or feeling stuck, because everything changes. Nothing remains the same. So Tuesday is Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday. It's the 4th of March. The times I give are Eastern times, so you need to adjust if that's not your time zone. One thing that's occurring on this day, this looks like a really dynamite day for fun, for connections, for good food, good play, good trouble, is that as we get to early evening, we are in this really juicy space that is highly, super, super productive for whether you want to work or play. It's just really, really rich. And so be present, be conscious, enjoy the experience, because it's life when it's like a plum. You just feel, wow, I am in this zone of experience, and hopefully it's a lovely experience. But even if it's about work and productivity, that can also be maximized. The moon goes void, of course, at 5:53 a.m. Wednesday. It's Ash Wednesday for those who practice that, Wednesday the 5th. And it enters Gemini at 7:29 a.m., so that's about an hour and a half. Now, when the moon is void, of course, for those of you who haven't heard me say this, what that means is that there's no emotional glue for sticking to someone. So in general, when the moon is void, of course, it's best to work on things already in motion, just chill, clean up your desk, get ready for the next move or thing that's going to happen, because it's not an ideal time to reach out, start a new project, or do a pitch or something, because people they may say it's a great idea, but the follow-through is not maximized. Once the moon is in the sign of Gemini, today looks like it's a very fast-moving day on Wednesday. There's a lot of ideas, a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement, a lot of messages, a lot of connections. Super, super important to make sure everyone's on the same page. Write things down, do follow-up on appointments. Okay, so we said Friday at noon. Make sure that everyone understands what they excitedly or quickly said they were going to do. Because when things are moving very quickly, it's kind of like a room full of paper airplanes. It's just things go all over the place, and you want to make sure that what's important is nailed down and put on the calendar or signed, really, really pulled down. But overall, it's a very high energy day. Air signs, fire signs, definitely going to be in their elements, feeling like a lot is getting done. You just want to make sure that you get things that need to be contractually signed or committed to, because otherwise it's a lot of buzz and nothing has been concretized. And this can be the case on Thursday as well. The difference between Wednesday and Thursday is that it can become more apparent to us what isn't necessarily finalized. Whereas on Wednesday, everything can be so buzzy and exciting that we just get caught in the whole excitement of it and don't necessarily think, oh, well, is she really going to call me? Or, oops, didn't get that email. I mean, you need to make sure it's clear. On Thursday, it can be a little more apparent. It's prime example is someone tells you up and down, oh, yes, they're definitely going to show up, make that thing happen. They'll have the car. You'll get picked up at 8 a.m. on such and such. And as you're nodding and talking to this person, you're remembering all the times they did not show up or follow through. So know that you need a reliable person, or that whoever may be well-intended in making something happen, you want to make sure you're secure on what else might happen, like have perhaps an Uber lined up if that person does not come when they said they were going to come. So these are just examples. I don't really know how they necessarily will spin out, but the thing about the moon in Gemini is it often has to do with messaging. It can have to do with play dates, things that have to do with getting information to someone. It can be neighborhood exchanges, certainly anything that involves transit. And that's another part of this that can happen where, where I know that this route is super fast to get to JFK at this hour. And yet, as you start moving through, there's detours, road work, and unexpected hitches that occur. So that's the kind of thing that can present itself. So you want to have a backup plan, whatever it may be. And this can all manifest just sitting at your desk at a computer. I mean, it doesn't have to be you're out and about and doing things. It can just be that websites are down, or the Microsoft team meeting didn't happen the way it was supposed to. Just stuff like that. No, it's not Mercury retrograde. But what it is it's about how the ways in which we connect most effectively often have to do with a communication system that is not just verbal. So it's super important to tap into, how am I feeling now? Is this hitting me right is, do I have a sense this is going to go as planned? And some people are super sharp about that kind of intuitive volleying. And it doesn't mean, again, that they aren't going to say, yeah, sure, let's do it that way. But they're always kind of thinking about contingency plans, or if this doesn't go exactly as we're discussing. And it's not lack of trust or anything, actually quite the reverse. It's more thinking in terms of, I might have to move in another direction or see this a little differently, instead of just putting everything in this one thought. So on the 7th, on Friday, now we're getting into the weekend, what happens is the moon goes void of course at 9:57 a.m. Friday morning, and it enters the sign of Cancer at 11:29 a.m. Now, what I love about this is that we are going into a weekend that really is wanting us to nest, restore, do the things that have us feel connected to family, friends, foods, comfort that allow us a sense of regeneration. And that's wonderful. The thing is, that isn't always what's on the calendar for people. So when you look at how this weekend is folding out for you, if it's a high intensity, busy weekend, if you're working, if you're out and about and doing a lot of active things, sports, activities, social action, whatever your action plan is, you want to put in moments of recharge. Super important. If you haven't done that, sit down in the evening on Friday, especially if you're feeling particularly frayed, which can happen, even if you have it on your calendar, and look at Saturday and plug in some recharge time, because it's really incredibly valuable, especially Saturday evening into Sunday, into early evening. We want to be in places where we feel loved, centered. We want to be in that place that allows us a sense of deep connection. And if for some reason that isn't something that's available for you, then you want to look at how you can find some moments to meditate, space out, and make those connections that are so valuable for restoration, rejuvenation, and honestly, longevity. Because what happens when we avoid or keep letting the fuel run out, and when I say fuel, there's different ways to do it. This is the moon in Cancer. It's a water moon. So basically what it's asking us is, what feeds you emotionally? How do you feel restored? If no one's available, give yourself a hug. What is it that gives you that sense of being loved, connected, part of a whole? I mean, there's all kinds of terminology people use. It's for some, it's family. The word tribe gets bandied around a lot. I personally think that that's a word that is appropriate for people who come from that kind of lineage. That's my own way of seeing it. But nucleus is of friendship, of places where we feel that restorative connection. For some people, it's, I mean, I grew up Roman Catholic and went through a long process of recovering from what was not a difficult, was a difficult time with it, with just leaders and teachers who were kind of, honestly abusing their power with children. So for me, it was a long process to get to a place of looking at the beauty of that kind of connectivity and not feeling disempowered by it. So personally, I absolutely love going into churches at this point in my life. I don't practice Catholicism, but I find the stone, the glass, the incense, some of the imagery, especially the imagery of the Marys, very, very calming. So we all have places we go. And my favorite places, of course, are in nature, because that to me is the perfect temple, sacred place. And just to sit underneath trees in the wind, to see a body of water. These are ways to restore if you're in a hectic environment where you just can't get space. And just remembering my early life with work, and I'd be in a lot of hotels at times, hotels with canned air and no access to nature. And so one asks, well, where do you go? Where do you get that space, that regenerative energy? And it there are places to be, even if it's just going to a roof garden or looking at a vista of sky. There are places to be restored. And so the weekend of the 8th and 9th is really asking you to find that restorative womb, wherever it is for you, whether it's elusive or whether it's right there, and it just requires you to make time to sit down, hold somebody's hand, and make that connection. If it's not in your present life, then sink down into the memory of it and make that connection, because it will feed you emotionally. So at 5:32 p.m. on Sunday, I also noticed Sunday is when daylight saving times begins, depending on where you are. So 5:32 p.m. the moon goes void, of course, and then it enters Leo at 6:59 p.m. Once it enters Leo, we're kind of out of that womb space, of that desire to connect to the emotional cord, and things can get very jazzed very quickly. So that's the other reason it's super important to give yourself that restorative time before we enter that place where we are moving into much more electric energy, which will kick off the week of the 10th. And I'll talk more about that next time. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends. And if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.